What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. This right here, as you all know, is the podcast where we dive into the deep, dark, murky waters with a plethora of legendary guests. I am, of course, your host, your bastard of ceremonies, the number one scumbag, Rex Ruger. That's RE XXX. You might also know me as the King of Sleaze, a.k.a. the Hair Metal High Priest, and most importantly, a.k.a. Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. That's right, you're looking at him. And who might that be? You're looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band. Just smoked a few grams. I got a million fans. I'm your ice cream man, Mr. Wop, Babaloo, Bop, Wop, Bam, Bam, Shazam, hot damn. Ooh, and I'm feeling good. Most importantly, everybody in the house, including you all out there, looking good. You know how I get it done, kids. Spray responsibly. Coming to you, as always, from the Lavender Lounge of Love, and joined as always by the great Keith Hernandez Puppet, who I couldn't do this thing without, bringing you the No Frills podcast. No frills, but plenty of thrills. And you're looking at them, baby. And if you're watching us right now, please remember to like and subscribe. Check out, go peruse all the awesome content that's already on the channel. And be sure to check us out on Facebook. Pod Scum is on Facebook. That's right. You heard it here first. And you should, because you are on the Pod Scum YouTube channel. Tonight, we got a good one for you. But when don't we? And our guest is here right now, so enough of the formalities. Let's get down to it and chop it up with him on Pod Scum. I'm excited about this one. Gonna be a good one. Wow, Mark Ford, thanks for doing this, buddy. It's a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you, man. This is great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
No.
Are you able to hear me? Can you hear me? See me? Okay, we lost him. Can you hear me and see me or no? Let me see. Enable your mic and camera. Are you able to see me at all? You there? Nothing yet, huh? Mark, you there? Check, check, check. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is where technology is always so fun. Are you able to hear me at all? Are you there? Mark. Let's see. Anything yet? Are you able to see me? You there? Mark. I don't know why this is happening, folks, but bear with us here. Mark seems to be having technical difficulties on his end. I don't quite know. You there? Let me see. Bear with us here, kids. Go out and come back on. Are you there? All right, folks. I just sent him a text, told him to go out and try to come back in again, and we'll see if this works again. Apologies for the technical difficulties. But again, This is unscripted, folks. This is podcast life right here. This is the struggle, folks. And believe me, it's real. Okay? So, hey, here's what it is. You know what I mean? So we will see if we can get it rectified here. You there?
Hey.
Now we got it figured out. Boy, technology, huh? Just making the world so fucking easy, right? I mean, MARC FORD, I'm glad we finally got the chance to do this. And before I jump right in, because I know a lot of people are obviously going to remember you from the Black Crowes years, but I kind of want to work backwards here and just kind of get an update on, you know, the numerous projects that you do and whereabouts those projects are right now, excluding Black Crowes and the Magpie Salute, obviously, but MARC FORD and the Neptune Blues. Status on that?
That band hasn't played together in a while.
Okay.
That band, everybody's kind of busy and other things. So
okay.
right now, I'm just out doing dates just under my name and as a trio.
Okay.
And got a record sort of in the can that I've been shopping around, looking for a home.
So no Jefferson Steel Flex, no Fuzz Machine, MARC FORD and the Sinners?
Just MARC FORD.
Just MARC FORD. Okay. And I want to see if there's any truth to this, you know, because obviously certainly don't believe everything out there, kids, that you read on the internet. It's not all true. But an offer was extended to you. I find this interesting. Back in the day to potentially join Guns N' Roses. Fact or fiction?
No, that's fact.
That's fact. Okay. I wanted to fact check that. And you said something very poignant. If this part is true, that I read online, that you felt like if you had joined that band, you may not still be with us to this day. Is that true?
Well, it's very possible. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
It was. You know, I probably would have got bored strumming behind Slash, and boredom is not always a good thing.
No, that's true. That's true. So talk to me a little bit about like what your upbringing was like. How old were you when you first got a guitar in your hands?
10.
Yeah.
I had a teacher at elementary school that was teaching some classes, and so I got my grandmother to buy me a really garbage acoustic guitar at the swap meet. And it was love at first sight, kind of.
And do you remember what was there a particular artist or a song or an album that really kind of got you got your love for music kind of kickstarted?
Probably Elton John, actually.
Yeah.
For some reason, I needed to have Yellow Brick Road when it came out, and I got my mom to buy it for me, and I was just sort of mesmerized by that record.
When you sit down to make music, what is your particular, because I'm always interested, I talk to a lot of musicians on here, and like usually the creative process for everybody seems to be usually one of two ways. Either you get guys who are just getting sparks of creativity throughout the day and they're jotting stuff down, or they're humming riffs into their phone or a recording device, or they're disciplined and they go set time aside and they treat it like a job. You know, for the next 4 or 5 hours, I'm going to go in this room and I'm going to write music. What kind of creative process, do you utilize?
I wouldn't call myself disciplined in that way.
No.
I mean, it's like fishing. You got to stick the pole in the water,
Yeah.
So it's about being prepared to notice anything that maybe goes by, and then B, putting in the time to, flesh out that idea. So, it was obsessive for me for years, and I've tried to have a balance of it now. So I'm not constantly, I just get wore out listening all the time for musical things that inspire me, or, it's like I'm just not on the hunt all the time.
Right. And going back a couple of years when everything kind of went off the rails with COVID, how did that particular time, when you go back to 2020 and, the wheels kind of fell off the fucking world, so to speak, and, the plug was pulled on a lot of stuff. How did that affect what you had going on, personally and or creatively at that time? Did that derail a lot of plans? Did that pull the plug on a lot of stuff for you at that time?
There was a tour that was booked with the Allman Betts Band, which we just picked up when it was all together. But, I really didn't have a whole lot going on at the time. So things just sort of kept going the way they were going, and nothing really changed for me. It changed for everybody else around me, I think,
And did the time, how did you spend the time? Like where, I know a lot of people just kind of peeled back and they just said, hey, fuck it, I'm going to use it as a time to relax. But then, there's certainly creative types who found it, an abundantly fruitful period to create. How did you utilize that time?
Just kept doing what I was doing, sitting on the porch, really.
Yeah. Writing music.
No, I didn't have anything to write about. I mean, I just didn't have anything to say. I mean, I really have to either be really moved by something and have a purpose, or I just don't sit around dreaming up things to talk about. And if I'm not playing with people, I'll go through long periods of time without even holding the guitar. So, sometimes I just got to get away from the thing.
Yeah. And as a person who doesn't play an instrument, is that really par for the course? Because I feel like a lot of guys who play the guitar are almost the antithesis of what you just said. They're very obsessive. They never put the thing down. They feel like they got to have it in their hands all the time. Does that process work for you, being able to put the thing away?
It has to, because I lived that obsessive way for too many years, and it's like I didn't want that feeling anymore, where it's like, who am I without this thing?
Right. It almost dictates your identity.
Well, it can very easily. Yeah. I mean, and then if the gig you got is good, then you're a good dude. And if you don't have a great gig, who are you? You know what I mean? So
right.
It's important to separate that, what you do, from who you are.
And when that first, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but that first Black Crowes album that you appear on, the 1992 Southern Harmony and Musical Companion, which, in my opinion, say what you want about Shake Your Money Maker, other albums or whatever, that right there is quintessential, vintage Black Crowes right there. When you came in and you take over for Jeff, what was it that you wanted to bring to the band? Because I certainly feel like, even though the Black Crowes sound stayed the same, you certainly brought an element to it where it almost was, it was always very groovy music, but it seemed like you brought like much more of a bluesy element to it. Would that be accurate?
Maybe, yeah. Sure, I guess so. I mean,
much more slide guitar being played on that album, though, right? That's a forte of yours.
I didn't really play a lot of slide at that time. I had learned actually to play the songs that were on the first record.
Okay.
So I kind of lied to Rich and told him, yeah, I played slide, and knowing that I didn't have to do a whole lot, and I could do what was on the record.
Yeah.
But then being out on the road and touring, I developed it little by little, and had to do it in front of people. So, you learn real quick.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And
I think more than anything, maybe a melody. There was another melodic voice that entered the band, rather than just guitar chunking along. And there were a couple of solos that were on there that the engineer Bud O'Brien did. But then besides that, it was Jeff was a great player. He very much in sort of the Chuck Berry range of things, and so I think I just have a little bit more melodic sense. Maybe I brought that.
And when you do solo work, do you find it's more fulfilling, to work outside of a band element and just kind of be like your own entity and not have anybody to run ideas, bounce ideas off of or run things through? Do you like that? Did you like that, or do you like the band format?
I love being in a band. I love having guys to work with, and it's definitely inspiring. You can, when it gets weird when you're just just you all the time, because
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I like to. It's helpful for me to get alone to write usually, because just it's messy, and you need to make sure no one's looking. I think a lot of times,
Yeah.
which I'm
Yeah.
trying to get over, but then other things will happen. When you're playing with somebody, stuff just happens on the spot. So it's both things need to happen, I think.
You've been doing this for so long. I always hate to word this question in terms of like, the dreaded who are your influences, but to attack it from a different angle, you as a guitar player, who are guys who's playing that you hear that you really admire as a fan
These days?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, there's lots of them. I mean, Billy Strings is amazing, and
Yeah.
Marcus King, and there's guys that've been around for a long time, like Kirk Fletcher, and
Yeah.
the regular guys that are doing it. There's lots of them. I don't keep my ear too close to the ground. I don't know everything that's coming out, but I'm sure there's a lot of new players that are outstanding. I just don't keep that close to the watch.
Is there a right or wrong answer to the in your mind, at least, when you're going to release music, because the industry has changed so much? You're seeing a lot of artists putting out singles, or they're shortening up the amount of work that they put out at one time. And I lend a lot of that to people's dwindling attention spans and the influx of music being created, and how easy it is to create music even home on just your computer without even having knowledge of playing an instrument. When you sit down to make an album, do you consciously think about, how many songs do I want to release? Is an LP the right format? Is an EP the right format? What's the right answer that works best for you?
I still think in records.
Yeah.
That's how I learned. That's how I started. That's how I fell in love with music. You got a package, and that seemed like a full thought and a journey, and it's a singles based sort of market right now, like it was in the 50s, or it goes in that. The long playing record, I think there's still value in it.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't like it to be too long, but I like it to be long enough to where it's you can spend a little time with it.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're going to create, is there something that you use as an impetus to kind of create music? Like, what do you draw inspiration from? A lot of guys will write based off of things they might see on the news, or from movies, or from stories that they read, or books, or whatever. Where do you draw inspiration from?
It all sneaks in, for sure. But usually it's music. I'll hear something, a change, or a drum beat, or something that, like, wow, I wonder what I could do with that. It's like something that catches my ear, a fresh way to approach something. That's usually what gets me. Otherwise, a lot of times it's just holding a thing, and you stumble on an accident and something pops out. You go, whoa, what's that? Let's see where we can go with that.
You've been very candid in past interviews about talking about like having to take time for yourself to walk away from the industry and to walk away from stuff to focus on your own sobriety, which is something I can certainly relate to, having been through my own struggles. First of all, how are you doing with your sobriety?
Great.
Good. That's good to hear.
Probably
That's good to hear.
Healthiest I've ever been, probably.
Yeah, that's great. And so much gets made sometimes, about, what substances can do for, opening up creative doors. Is that all bullshit though? When it boils right down to it though, you're sacrificing a lot of yourself, like, for your art, but there has to be a limit though, right? There's got to be a line that you draw.
I think that there's a lot of ways to open creativity, but they're all just shortcuts to if you just put the time in, and
Yeah.
get in the headspace. They're all shortcuts, like I don't think they're needed. I mean, I think that's absolute bullshit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people are afraid to get clean because they think they're going to lose what they have, and it's just a lie.
Yeah.
I think I play better than I ever have.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look back at that time, that time period when you're in the Black Crowes, and obviously, everything is probably going like 100 miles an hour all the time on full tilt or whatever. At this stage of your life now, though, how much touring do you really like to do? And like, what do you like to, to have your itinerary be like now? Because obviously the narrative changes as you get older. You don't want to be going, 100 million miles an hour and on the road all the time. People sometimes have, a significant other or kids or a day job that keeps them from, being able to just, travel at the drop of a hat. If you go out and play live, do you have an itinerary now that works best for you for how long of a time you'd like to go away for?
I'm kind of working it up again. I did touring last year in Europe with somebody, and my own stuff I haven't done in quite a while. So
Yeah.
we're just now starting to piece stuff together. And because I don't go out that often, I don't draw the crowds that I probably could have if I'd have consistently gone out and gone out and gone out and gone out.
Right.
So it's like a rebuild each time. Right now I'm just going out for sort of 5, 7, 10 days at a time.
Yeah.
I mean, a long tour is anything over 6 weeks is
brutal.
Yeah, pretty dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
It gets really weird, and it's just not healthy, I don't think. Like,
I couldn't imagine being away from my own bed for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm not at 50 years old. I couldn't.
Right. Well, I mean, it's definitely a love-hate relationship. You learn, like, it's a pain in the ass. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of alone time, and it's a lot of missing the things that you're used to.
Yeah.
But then you get used to that, and you get used to the people you're working with, and there's a brotherhood that starts up, and like, there's jokes that no one else understands.
Right.
They just aren't funny anymore as soon as you leave those people. And
right.
And just traveling, I think, is good for the soul. It's the same thing every day, but different every day. It's like it's a new picture outside the window, and I don't know. I miss it when I don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you see what the boys are out doing now, and by the boys I mean obviously Chris and Rich Robinson, and they got together, they seem like they mended fences or whatever, they're back touring together. First and foremost, were you ever approached about this last incarnation of the Black Crowes, or is it not even anything that you would even entertain?
I was never asked.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you like when these reunions get done though, and it's really just like a hollow shell of what it be? I was very upset when you see and of course everyone has to be on board to want to do it, but when I see like a Guns N' Roses now get back together, I think that's great that Slash and Axl have buried the hatchet and Duff is there or whatever, but it still feels very incomplete to me though. You don't have Izzy, you don't have Steven or even Matt Sorum. I mean, and very much the same with the Black Crowes. You've got the Robinson brothers there, but then you've kind of got like this, these hired guns, so to speak. I mean, it doesn't really feel like a reunion as much as it kind of feels like I don't know what other term you could throw on it, a rebirth, a different incarnation of the band. But I mean, what's your stance when bands do that though? Because sometimes you see some of these bands go out and it's like, oh, here's this band and there's not even an original member in it anymore. I mean, that's not the case with the Black Crowes. Obviously, the brothers are there, which obviously lends it a huge amount of credibility. But
well, yeah, the brothers, you're going to see those songs.
Yeah,
you're not going to get the band. That's
right.
For sure.
Right.
But
right.
You're going to see the songs, and that's what you get.
Yeah. And are you at all in contact with any of the guys that you did work with back in those days, the other members of the Black Crowes?
No,
No,
that was a
nobody
really long
from.
time. It was a really long time ago.
Yeah, it fucking sure was. I'm looking at the dates here, and I'm seeing Southern Harmony 92, Amorica 94, Three Snakes 96. I can't even believe it's been that freaking long. But when you look back on your work with that band, though, you look back on it with regardless of how it came to an end or why it came to an end, you look back on the material with pride, though, and happy on some level with the legacy there.
Oh, of course,
Because the work is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think we did great work. We meant it. We were doing it as hard as we could.
Yeah.
All of us took pride in it. Maybe a little too much sometimes, but
yeah.
Like when we did the reunion tour in 05, which is damn near 20 years ago. It was the first time I listened to all that music again, and it was like, wow, shit, this is really good.
Yeah.
We did all right.
Do you feel like what you're, the music you're creating now, what would you want people to know about this who might have you in their minds as, as the player that you were back in those days? How has your sound, kind of changed over the years? And like, what would you label what you're doing right now solo? Because I know that you obviously are very steeped and have a big love, for the blues. Obviously, would you say that that's probably the genre that most characterizes what you currently are doing?
No, I wouldn't call it blues. I mean,
okay.
blues is in there. Blues is the foundation to pretty much all of American music, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And people call me Americana, which I don't necessarily. I just,
what the hell does that mean?
rock and roll. I mean, American music. I call it American music. It's a little rock and roll. It's a little blues. It's a little singer songwriter. And depending on how the band that's playing, I sort of have to pick and choose the material that I'm doing out of the songs that I have, because like now I'm playing as a 3-piece, and certain songs lend themselves to a trio a lot better than others. So I have to kind of stay in a lane, but you get a different experience that way. It's a lot more, I think, a lot more visceral and in your face when there's 3 pieces.
And now, what about the work that you've done with, and I don't have the specifics here in front of me, forgive me for not knowing, but you have done some work with the Allman Brothers or with members of the Allman Brothers?
No, we toured together, back in the day, and got an extreme lesson. Government Mule, I've, worked with, and now they're kids, Dwayne and Devin, and worked with them, and Barry was just playing with me. So there's some kinship there. I never actually played with any of the guys on the Allman Brothers. I mean, except for sitting in,
But when you say there was a lesson learned there, what's the lesson that you learned from like just being around guys like that?
For me, the biggest lesson when I saw them, when we played together, was their dynamic range. Blew me away. Like, they could go from, the Crowes were a loud band, and the Allman Brothers at the time had more gear on stage than we did that were louder than ours, and they never used it. I mean, they were cruising way under most of the time, and I realized we were just smashing the ceiling constantly, and it's only so long you can take that. I mean, it gets to be a drag to listen to after a while, and they were doing these dynamic moves that were from like way down here to exploding, and it's like, wow, there's something very adult and very mature about that. Like being able to say, hey, look, you can still rock hard, but you can dial it back a little bit. Well, you have to, because if you're getting just smashed in the face all the time, you got to pull the plug and get out of there. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
it's like someone screaming at you constantly. Like, you can't. How long can you hear somebody yelling at you? You know?
Right, right. Well, I've been married 25 years, so apparently a long time. But I mean, I'm sure you can relate on some level.
Yes, sir.
So at this stage of your career, has your approach changed at all as you've gotten older? Because obviously, you know, we're not the same people that we were in our 20s, in our 30s. If we are, we've made some serious miscalculations. I feel like if you know, I wouldn't want to be. I'm certainly not the same person at 50 that I was, you know, at 20 or 25. Has that bled into your music, and has it changed your approach to the guitar, you know, to touring, to just being a musician at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think I would just say that I listen a lot more.
Yeah.
Generally, in all things, you know. So it's great for life, and it's great for music. It's like,
Yeah.
to listen first, and music is a response, you know.
Yeah.
And before, I was just utilizing everything I had all the time as hard as I could back in those days, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's what it required at
Right.
the time. And I've just learned a lot more, you know, like from the Allman Brothers, the dynamic level, you know. It's like you can sometimes say things a lot more effectively quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. And when it comes to, and again, I know you said you haven't been doing a lot of touring, but when it comes to touring and playing live now, you notice that from a physical standpoint, as you've gotten older, that any different preparations must be made. Are you doing anything differently? I'm always fascinated about this because my day job is in healthcare and I work as a nurse. So I'm always fascinated by people that do this. And as they get on in age, you know, you look at guys like the Rolling Stones who just fucking seem to not age at all. You know, I mean, they seem to be like an anomaly, you know, still hitting it hard into their 80s. How has that dynamic and that narrative in your life changed as you've gotten older? You know, do you notice, you know, hey, I've got to do this differently, or I have to tweak this or that?
Well, yeah, I'm much more aware of my body, and like where I hold the stress, and you know, I can get really kinked up if I'm not careful playing music, because it's such an adrenaline can be thing.
Right.
So I try to, you know, bring my piece to the stage, you know. So there's mental stuff you got to do, but physical too. I mean, like, you know, I didn't used to have to do exercises just so that I could hold a guitar for 90 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So you got to work a little harder to keep what you got, like they say. And yeah, I got to be intentional about it.
Are you somebody that, as a creative type, that gets all your creativity out in music? Could be, you know, I know a lot of guys I talked to on here, they have a lot of ancillary stuff that they do that's also creative, where like maybe the music doesn't scratch that itch for them, so to speak, completely. Do you get it all out in your music, or are you like a writer or a painter or this and that? You know, I know a lot of guys have to have like multiple outlets.
Yeah, I don't.
Music's the outlet.
Yeah, it is. I think, again, I have such a tendency to get obsessive about stuff that if I get into something, I can just disappear in it and not take care of all the other stuff that's got to be taken care of, like relationships and
yeah. I get that
too.
I'm the same way. I get very tunnel vision on stuff and very honed in, and sometimes it is unhealthy.
It can be, yeah, like anything. Yeah.
What was it that clicked for you that changed that mindset for you, though, to not be so obsessed? Like, was it one thing, or was it just kind of like, just as you aged, you started to connect dots?
Well, there have definitely been some crashes.
Yeah. Yeah, we've all had those.
Yeah. I mean, there are things that slap you in the face, but I mean, growing up, getting older changes your perspective a whole lot. You know, things are important to me now may not have been important to me at all back in the day. You know, I mean, the only thing that was important to me was me and what you thought of me back then.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? And now I really care much less about what you think about me.
Now, do you like this in today's music world? And obviously, I mentioned earlier how much it's changed. You know, not the standard record labels, record contracts, that kind of stuff. What is your assessment on like where the music industry is right now and what they could have done differently? Because I hear a lot of musicians on here, you know, talking about how much they have to slog it out on the road and peddle merchandise, and they're not getting much like from streaming sites, you know, not a lot of revenue out there. You know, first of all, could the record companies have found a way to get in on this and harness it and get you guys paid better? Or like what could have been done differently? Do you have an opinion on this?
I don't think anything's different. I think it was always the same. No one ever got paid for shit.
Yeah, it's true.
You always had to be on the road, and you always had to put butts in seats, and that's a musician's life. And
yeah,
there's a lucky few that made any money on selling records, but mostly it's, you got to get in the van, dude. You got to take it out there and do it. And
yeah,
it's the same thing now. Yeah, and the record companies they could pay us,
yeah,
instead of taking all the money.
yeah,
But they always did.
yeah,
You know, it was always a shitty deal. It was,
yeah.
it's it's not something to be into unless you have to.
It's a dirty business.
It certainly
can be.
is.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the people who make money prey on the people who make art. That's just the way it's always been.
That's well said. That's well said. And you know, I have to ask this question, but you know, usually I know what the answer is going to be because most musicians seem like they're lifers. But is it anything? You know, is getting up on stage or writing music or have you ever thought about a stop date on it? Or you know, does retirement ever enter the equation, or is it just like I'll do this till the wheels fall off or till I can't do it anymore?
Well, like touring, it can be a problem. It can be a pain in the ass if when you have to do it and it's your only option. I don't think I'll ever stop playing music. I don't want to spend all of my life traveling constantly. I got to do what I got to do. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a guitar player, like a billion other guitar players. You know, I gotta do a lot of things to make it.
And what would you say right now to the audience that's watching? Like what's the thing that you really want to put out there like right now? Do you have something coming up, tour dates, an album, anything that you can tell us about that's, you know, in the works or coming up?
Well, I have a record that's finished.
Okay.
But I'm looking for some help getting it out. So
okay.
Talking to a couple of labels and again, like, you know, you get the same thing. Like the music industry has changed so much that it's the way it's, you know, I don't really know what's going to happen. I think the record's good enough to not just put it out myself and let it fall off the cliff, you know what I mean?
Right.
And mail a few of them out myself. So I'm hopeful that I can find a partner that way. And in the meantime, I've got a booking agent. We're out there just doing some dates, trying to stir up business again, you know, and just go play.
Is it hard nowadays? To go at it without a label or without? Because I hear so many bands on here that are either, you know, on a label or they're doing it the DIY way. Is the formula? Obviously, it must still work better when you've got some help and some label support. Because even though the labels have certainly have scaled back, they're not the force that they once were. It does still help having people, though, assist you and help with promotion and all that kind of stuff. It is still better to have that right now, right? This is not something that you want to get this album out. You don't want to do it yourself, though, obviously.
Well, it's just I did a Kickstarter record and did it all myself, and it about broke my brain. You know, yeah. I mean, it's too much. I'm a guitar player. I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter. I'm not an accountant or
right.
A distributor or scheduling and all that stuff is makes me a little bit crazy. So yeah, it really helps to have somebody helping. You got to have somebody helping you out. I mean,
yeah,
you just have to. It depends on what they're taking for it, what you're giving away for it.
right.
And yeah, I mean, nowadays it's like you got to be the promotion guy too, and that's dangerous. I mean, I can't sit here and think about Mark Ford constantly and keep telling you about Mark Ford all day long. It's just
Right.
fucks with my head. You know,
Yeah. It gets back to that obsessive thing again. You know,
it
like
is. It does, exactly. It's just not a healthy way to go about things.
And so you're literally saying though that you're at the point right now, like where you take this finished album and you shop it more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm getting the same, you know, love the record, but I don't see much online presence. It's like, well, no, you don't. Help me with that, you know?
Yeah. I think that's I think you said something very poignant there, and a guest that I had not that long ago kind of made reference to the same thing, where it almost seems like sometimes it isn't the people that are making it right now that necessarily have the most talent, but it seems to be like the people with the most elevated social media profile, who everybody's kind of dialed into right now. You know, oh, I'm plugged into this person because they, you know, and there's interest from, you know, from labels or whatever, because this person has 20 million followers or 5 million followers on Facebook, which is kind of sad and kind of ass backwards in a way.
I mean, again, I don't think that's a new thing.
Right.
You know, I mean, there's been plenty of people with great careers that are mediocre at best, but they bust their ass and they're willing to do what it takes. And there are plenty of geniuses that no one ever's heard of because they either can't or won't do the work.
Right.
So yeah, it's I don't think things have changed just because it's gone digitally. It's they're expecting you to do more on your own now, which I don't know when you have time to be an artist or a songwriter, when you have to be the guy selling the artist and the songwriter.
Right. You got to write the songs. You got to do the music. You have to be present on Twitter. You have to be present on this site and that site, and have a
Got to run a YouTube channel, and
you got to or YouTube channel, a Facebook profile. You got to have it all nowadays. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that stuff changes so fast. I can't keep up with it. So it's pretty. You know, I don't know. I know how to get out there and play my guitar in front of people, and that's the thing. All of these people with all of these giant followings, how are they doing live? I mean, when people go to show up to see them, what do they get?
Right.
You can't hide behind anything. You know?
Right.
So
well, I think we know what we're getting with a lot of them. We're getting backtracking and, you know, smoke and mirrors and a lot of tricks and stuff, you know what I mean? Which seems like that's what, you know, that's coming under the microscope with a lot of artists now, as we've seen on YouTube, where you get your Kisses and your Motley Crues, you know what I mean? And that's not to impugn what they do, but they obviously are being called on the carpet for some of this stuff, though. I mean,
are they? Yeah, I don't know. I don't pay attention.
Well, yeah, believe it or not, like, yeah, there's a video going around, you know, about Paul Stanley not doing all the singing and using backing tracks, which were him singing at one point. But, you know, on the flip side of that, though, I mean, who can replicate what they did, you know, 30 or 40 years ago, too? So I don't know. Like, where would you stand on that as a live artist? Do you always want to deliver the live article, or could you see yourself like saying, geez, you know, to augment this show and make it better, you know what I mean? I would use some of these industry tricks.
I don't know. Again, we're back to like people are going to hear those songs, and maybe not everybody really gives a shit who's playing it or if he's really doing it. They just want to show up in a room full of people and hear those songs played loud. You know, I never had that luxury. People don't know my songs, so you know, I'm there to play. Yeah, and I'm not there to perform for you.
Right.
I'm there to make music. And so I've never had the luxury to make that decision. I have to go and show up and do it.
Well, I wish you a lot of luck, you know, shopping this album. You know, I really love what you do. I've always loved your playing. I certainly thought that, you know, and again, this is not to impugn the work of Jeff Cease, but I certainly think that, you know, obviously on the Black Crowes material that you were present on, it certainly dialed it up and raised the stakes quite a bit, man. So I wish you a lot of luck, and I'm glad we got the chance to finally do this, man. It's been a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you, and I know it seems like it's feast or famine out there, man. I hope this album falls into into the hands of some people that can really help facilitate you getting it out there. I hope it, I hope it gets to see the light of day and actually be heard, and you know, it's successful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. Yeah. I appreciate you
It'll
doing
get
this.
out there one way or another.
It'll be out there one way or another. Mark Ford just wants to be a goddamn guitar player. He doesn't want to get up there and fucking and it's explain to you how to follow him on Twitter and Instagram and all this kind of shit. You know what I mean? You want to find him? Well, I guess you do probably have a website though, right? Or someplace where the people can find you, right?
Yeah. There's markfordmusic.com.
At the very least, you have to have that nowadays, right?
Yeah, the Instagram is a great tool to let people know about shows. You know,
it is. Yeah.
And you know, it all makes sense. I get it.
It does.
I can't do it all myself. You know,
Yeah.
that's where you got to have a team.
So Mark Ford is willing to say that he's putting out the help wanted sign right now if anybody wants to help him out, right? I mean,
That's right.
the Mark Ford business plan is being unveiled right here. He needs
That's right.
He needs a street team. That's what you need, a street team.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it's been a real pleasure getting the chance to talk to you, man. I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to do it. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, good talking to you, and best of luck with everything going forward.
All right.
All right. Talk to you later, man. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Later. There he goes, folks. That's Mark Ford right there, man. I don't even know where to begin. He's done so many cool things. I think most people would know him from, obviously, his stint in the Black Crowes. I mean, come on. The MAGPIE salute, which he did with Rich Robinson, one of the brothers from the Black Crowes. But he's done a lot of cool, interesting music. We didn't go through all of his bands, but Mark Ford in the Neptune Blues Club, Jefferson Steel Flex, Fuzz Machine, Mark Ford in the Sinners. Now he's just out there just as Mark Ford on his own, doing his thing with as a trio. But you know, certainly go check him out and support what he does. Just a fantastic guitar player, very rooted in, as you heard him say, Americana, steeped in good blues, soulful playing. Obviously, you could hear that he brought that to everything he did on the Black Crowes. When he was with the Black Crowes, Southern Harmony and Musical Companion. I mean, come on, go back and check that album out from 1992. Plus, he was also on 1994's Black Crowes album Amorica, 1996, Three Snakes and One Charm. I mean, you know, these are just seminal albums in the hard rock music world. The Black Crowes, goes without saying, they're legends, still out there doing it. Mark Ford, unfortunately, not a part of it, man, but out there still doing his thing and still making interesting music. Guy needs a little help, though. So if you're out there, if anybody's watching this, and give Mark Ford a little help with this album, or a little help with boom, catapulting his solo career. As you can hear, the guy just wants to make music. I mean, you know, and you gotta respect that. I mean, you know, he's certainly a throwback musician. You know, whereas doesn't sound like he wants to do all the slogging around on the internet and follow me here, follow me here. And I get it. Yeah, and he makes a good point. Some of it is important, but at the end of the day, man, what's really important and that you should really serve is the music and the songs. So, and Mark Ford certainly makes some great ones and has made some great ones. And I have no doubt will continue to make some great ones. So go out and support him. Mark Ford, M-A-R-C. I spell mine with a K, so I want to certainly differentiate. Mark Ford, go out and Google him. Check out where he's playing, when he's playing, and certainly, you know, check out his musical palette, if you will. His music is out there. I'm sure you can find it out there on the streaming platforms, but a real honor to get a chance to talk to him, man. A real interesting guy and a real interesting guitar player. And anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. I want to thank Mark Ford for doing this. And until we get together and we do this thing again, and we will be doing it again and soon, remember, kids, take it easy and keep it sleazy.